Ian, good morning.
Hey, good morning, DA.
It is so good to talk to you, and I have to tell you that I was listening to a podcast with you and Jimmy Traynor recently, and on it, you admitted that you actually were on social media on Twitter. Now, I'd always figured you were not on Twitter because you're not to be found, but I'm guessing that you have kind of a dummy follow, a dummy account. So I figure you follow me. So I was going through some of my followers, and I wanted to see if these were actually you, okay?
I'm ready.
Were you or are you Stud Pierre?
I am not.
Are you TJ Squirtle?
I am not.
Eric Avocados?
I'm Eric Avocados 6.
Okay, because I figured...
That's amazing.
I figured you were either that or Chase Stacks, who claims himself to be a rapper, or Scurvious. I figured maybe Ian Eagle might be Scurvious on Twitter.
Yes. It has to come out this way, DA. I never thought it would happen like this, but yes, I am Scurvious.
I knew it! At Scurvious! Has your call coming up for the Patriots. The Patriots.
How about this, DA? There's one for you. So my son Noah, who you know, Syracuse young man, a senior, went into Sirius XM to do a show. He does a show every Monday on college sports, and he happened to be in the New York area, so he goes in to do it. And Eric Spitz, who we both know very well, is now over at Sirius XM. He's bringing him around. He's going to bring him to the studio, and he sees Mad Dog Russo, and he goes up to Chris. He says, "Hey, Chris, look who I've got here." He says, "Is that your son?" He said, "No, not my son." Try again. He says, "Is that Damon Amendolara's son?" Noah, he's 21 years old. So I don't know if Chris can't do the math in his head, but somehow he took two swings at this thing, and he whiffed on both. So just so you know, maybe there's something I need to know.
Yes, Ian, you're Scurvious, but I'm actually the father of Noah Eagle.
Is that Damon Amendolara, son?
True story. That's amazing. So last week you were on the call with this Chargers and Ravens game, and we were wondering if Lamar Jackson was going to be pulled and if Joe Flacco was going to get in. And this week I spent so much time trying to figure out why Flacco never got in that game. What's your best guess, your best reasoning to why Harbaugh never pulled the trigger?
My best guess, my best reasoning is a macro view of Lamar Jackson, his development, Flacco's future with the team, and even Harbaugh's future with the team. So you take all of that into account, and if Harbaugh puts Flacco into the game, that means Lamar Jackson's season potentially ends on a serious negative note where he could not move the team, he could not seem to figure out this Los Angeles defense, and now they have to go into next year with Jackson as their starter and then potentially in the playoffs again, and all of these storylines pop up. Now, look, am I giving too much credit? That was probably the plan ahead of time, that it's Lamar Jackson or bust. And the reality is he did look better in the fourth quarter. He moved them down the field. Chargers adjusted their defense at that point, a pair of touchdowns to put them in a position to at least have a puncher's chance before the ball got punched out by Owosu. With that said, I don't think they wanted to go down that road ultimately. They didn't want to open up that Pandora's box. And I know there were a lot of people, especially inside that stadium, that felt that the move was to go to Joe Flacco and try to push the ball down the field a bit. But just the adjustment in the offense, the blocking schemes, they've already been there and done that. I don't think it's that simple. Snap your fingers, put Flacco in, and magic happens. They've changed their offense. They have completely built it around Lamar Jackson. So I don't think it was a simple decision. They went with a larger point of view, which was This is part of the process with Lamar Jackson, and he needed to stay in there and see it through.
Ian Eagle joins us this morning here on the DA Show on CBS Sports Radio. He's got the call of the Chargers and Patriots for Westwood One coming up this weekend. I think the craziest stat maybe of the postseason is that the Chargers have not lost when they've boarded a flight. They lost 3 home games and then crossed town against the Rams. Everything else they have won this year. They're 12-4, now 13-4 after last week. How do we make sense of the Chargers being that great away from their home stadium?
Well, I think when you try to analyze it, you have to look at their home situation and the fact that they've been so emboldened and empowered by the fact that they don't have a complete crowd that is on their side when they're at home. And I know most people will look at that as a negative. You don't feel like you're at home when you're at home. But I think it's connected them in some way that they can face any obstacle, even at home, when they have 60% of the audience wearing Kansas City Chiefs gear. That's what I saw in the opener. Season opener, I did the Chargers and the Chiefs, and I'm telling you there was a sea of red in Carson, California. That's your season opener for a really good Charger team. So with that said, going on the road is not a big deal to them. And yes, the trip to London and chatting with Anthony Lynn and other members of the Chargers, it brought them closer together. It's not an easy trip. They made the trip. They got the W. And I just think this has been building throughout the year. They feel a little bit indestructible when they get on an airplane and face the challenge of going on the road. They don't see it the same way that other teams may see it. They went to Baltimore, went back 3,000 miles, came back now, and they're going to head to New England on Friday. It just works for them.
I wonder, is it more important in your mind the pass rush getting after Brady or Phillip Rivers playing a really good game?
Well, I obviously had a lot of Patriots games this season. I saw them when they've played very well. I saw them when they didn't play all that well. The Tennessee game comes to mind. And what the Titans did, Mike Vrabel, who is certainly familiar with the Patriots and their personnel and their coaches, he had a plan, and that was to pressure Brady up the middle. And a lot of stunts. It was effective, and Tom didn't look like himself. The Detroit game, they didn't play very well, as we know. The Jacksonville game earlier in the season didn't play very well. That Tennessee game, if you put the tape on, that to me was the blueprint for how to handle New England. I think that Los Angeles will try to follow that. They've been very creative on defense. Gus Bradley, who did not get any interviews, didn't get any nibbles as a head coach. To me, at some point, he will deserve another chance. I just am blown away with the job that he's done, and he's looked outside the box to do things with Los Angeles. Personnel-wise, they've been in a precarious position because of injuries at the linebacker position. He's basically taken defensive backs. He's turned them into linebackers if need be. And last week against Lamar Jackson, most people thought they were crazy, playing 7 DBs. It was the right play, and it proved to be maybe the winning play for setting the tone in that game. Look, Phillip Rivers is going to have to deal with the same questions that he deals with all the time, the pressure in clutch situations, playoff game, on the road, tight one late. Can he do it? I think he can. I've been impressed with how rejuvenated he's been with this offense. You go player for player with these two teams right now. I think the Chargers are the more talented team than New England.
I tend to agree, but there's always that weird Foxborough home field advantage. Crazy things happen, spooky things happen, and sometimes just road teams lose their minds in that spot. Do you think this Chargers team, because of its road warrior mentality, is better suited than previous opponents in Foxborough to try to overcome that?
Yeah, I think they are, but there are legitimate questions about Melvin Gordon and what percent of Gordon we're going to see. Last week, the knee injury, I didn't see that extra gear. They were most effective running to the left and getting outside with Gordon against an outstanding Buffalo defense. So maybe that's something that they focus in on again. We know that Eckler is certainly someone that can be a difference maker for them if necessary, and they have to go to Justin Jackson. He came through on a few occasions this season, but Gordon he's the impact guy in not just the running game, but in the passing game. The Hunter Henry part of this is also worth mentioning because in the red zone, he's now another option to go along with Mike Williams. And even if he's a decoy, that might free up Mike Williams to get into the touchdown department. I like the makeup of this Charger team. I like their head coach. I think Anthony Lynn has been the perfect fit. No-nonsense attitude. He's not trying to be somebody else. He has proven to be the right guy with the right touch for this team. I think they're equipped to do it, but everything you just listed regarding New England, you have to factor in, and they always seem to find a way at home in the divisional round.
Ian Eagle joins us for the NFL on CBS and Westwood One. Final question is going to be about Adam Gase because you've done plenty of Dolphins games as Gase has been the head coach. We've talked a lot about this hire today. It's a very polarizing hire. A lot of Jets fans very frustrated. A lot of Dolphins fans were disappointed in the 3 years of Gase. What was your read on Adam Gase, considering you spoke to him away from the cameras and got information from him and got to, I'm guessing, know him a little bit?
Yeah, very impressed by him. I like his whole way. I think his approach might work better in New York than it did in Miami. He can be a little cantankerous, which isn't a bad thing. The give and take with the New York media, that might work to his favor in many ways. The fact that he will go back at them a little bit. In Miami, you didn't get a lot of that. I think in New York you will. And Adam's a competitive guy. I think he was the right choice based on Sam Darnold and what they were looking for in a candidate. The questions with Adam were interpersonal with players and whether he had the right touch with dealing with players day to day to day. He can learn from that. And I think this is a better marriage than the one that he was in with Miami. The Darnold part of it is the headline, and they had to feel really comfortable with whoever they named to that position, that he was the right person to lead Darnold into this chapter of his NFL career. I think he is.
So what makes you feel like he's better suited now for the interpersonal stuff than he was in Miami?
Well, you learn from it. You learn from some mistakes. You don't have all the answers as a first-time head coach. And I don't think Adam pretended to have all the answers. There was a lot of trial and error. He does hold guys accountable. And I think back, I had them in the opener a couple of years ago when it was already bad between him and Jay Ajayi. Like, they hadn't even played a game yet. And he and Jay Ajayi were not seeing eye to eye, and Arian Foster was named the starting running back. And eventually, as we know, Ajayi got in there and put together a great season, but got traded to Philadelphia the following year. So I think he can learn. This is something that Bill Belichick may have faced when he made tough decisions, Bernie Kosar, Vinny Testaverde in Cleveland, and that haunted him for a little while. He certainly learned from it and now fully understands how to handle players and how to do it in a way that they respect him and understand that he's the boss.
Ian Eagle's on the call this weekend for the Chargers and the Patriots coming up on Sunday for Westwood One. So listen to it across this country where Westwood One games are carried. Ian joining us this morning on the show, a.k.a. Scurvious. It is always good to talk to you, my friend. Thanks so much, and say hello to my other son, Noah, for me.
And I just liked your last Twitter entry. Great stuff, D.A.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Ian Eagle, joining us this morning here on the DA Show. He's the best.